I cared for my wife, who had been mentally disabled for 5 years, when she suddenly regained her sanity. The first thing she did when she woke up was have the lawyer bring a divorce agreement. Her name is Sophia Taylor, the only daughter of the Taylor family of Mist City, a favored child of heaven. A car accident 5 years ago regressed her mind to that of 7 or 8-year-old. The doctors said she might remain that way for life. The Taylor family chose me, a poor kid with no parents and nothing but my looks, to hold a blessing in marriage ceremony for her. Now that she has recovered, I, the live-in son-in-law brought in for blessings and an arranged marriage, should sensibly leave. She sat on a $1 million leather sofa, wearing a Chanel haute couture suit, her long hair cascading like a waterfall, eyes displaying a shrewdness and indifference I had never seen before. Beside her was her mother, my mother-in-law Rebecca, who was dissecting me from head to toe with a picky, disdainful gaze. "Ethan, sign it." Sophia's voice was as cold as ice. "You've done your part these 5 years. Here is $5 million, enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. Consider it the Taylor family's compensation to you." Compensation? I smiled. In these 5 years, I had endured from a 22-year-old youth to become 27. I had to endure her unexplained crying every day, deal with her sudden urination and defecation, feed her like coaxing a child, and stay up all night watching her to prevent her from harming herself. I also had to put up with my mother-in-law Rebecca's bossiness and the sarcastic sneers of her relatives. In their eyes, I wasn't Taylor's son-in-law. I was the top-grade watchdog Taylor had bought. Now that the illness is cured and the patient is awake, the dog naturally has no use anymore. $5 million bought out 5 years of my youth, dignity, and all my efforts. It really was a great deal. I looked at Sophia's flawless, breathtaking face and felt completely calm. I took the Parker gold pen the lawyer handed me and, without a moment's hesitation, signed my name at the end of the divorce agreement. Ethan Johnson. A smug smile tugged at the corner of Rebecca's mouth, and Sophia's expression relaxed as if the last troublesome matter had been settled. What they didn't know was that over the past 5 years with Taylor families, especially Rebecca's, tacit approval and authorization, I had been transferring, in Sophia's name, the shares of Farwind Group held by those covetous relatives, little by little, all into my own name. Now, this company worth tens of billions of dollars is named Johnson. After signing, I didn't leave immediately. I took another document from the briefcase I carried, gently placed it on the polished glass coffee table, and pushed it towards Sophia. "Miss Taylor, since the divorce agreement is signed, it's time to settle the other account between us." My voice was low, yet it echoed clearly through the spacious living room. Sophia's attractive brow knitted slightly, a flash of puzzlement and impatience crossing her eyes. "What bill?" Rebecca snorted even more directly. "Ethan, don't push your luck. $5 million isn't enough. People like you are truly ungrateful wolves you can't domesticate." I ignored her outburst and simply looked at Sophia, smiling as I said, "Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not trying to push my luck, but some facts need to be clarified. You'd better read this document first." Sophia's lawyer, a middle-aged man named Michael who wore gold-rimmed glasses and looked shrewd and capable, grabbed the document first. He only read 2 pages before his expression changed instantly, a fine sweat appearing on his forehead. This is impossible," he cried out, his eyes full of horror and disbelief as he looked at me. Sophia finally sensed something was wrong. She snatched the document from Michael's hand, and Rebecca leaned in as well. When the mother and daughter read the contents of the document, their expressions went through all the seasons in a second. From initial puzzlement to shock to panic, and finally settling into a deathly pale silence. It was not an ordinary document. It was a consolidated document spanning 5 years, recording hundreds of transactions of equity pledges and debt assignments. The ultimate debtor pointed to Sophia Taylor, and the sole creditor was me, Ethan Johnson. The total amount was not a mere $5 million, but an astonishing $5.8 billion. "Ethan, this is fraud." Rebecca was the first to react. Pointing at my nose, she trembled with anger. "You borrowed money in Sophia's name? How dare you?" I kept smiling, a smile tinged with a mockery they couldn't read. "Mother-in-law, you can't say that recklessly. Every penny I used was authorized by you and Chairman Taylor. That is, your husband, Mr. Charles. And those funds weren't money I borrowed. They were money I sold." I paused, savoring the increasingly terrified expressions on their faces, and then explained slowly. 5 years ago, after Miss Taylor's car accident, the company was thrown into turmoil. Your own brother Robert, your husband's cousin Harry, they both tried to seize power and dilute Miss Sophia's absolute controlling stake of 58%. You and Mr. Charles were at your wits' end, weren't you? Rebecca's lips trembled, and she couldn't speak. "It was you who found me, who gave me a power of attorney to handle everything in Miss Sophia's name. Your aim was to use me, this foolish husband, this outsider, to play the villain, to confront those relatives, buy the shares back from them, and reconsolidate them under Miss Sophia's name. You planned it well. Use me as a background-less scapegoat. If it succeeds, the credit is yours, and I'm merely a tool. If it fails, I take the blame and can be discarded at any time, right?" My voice echoed through the living room, each word like a heavy hammer striking Rebecca and Sophia's hearts. "Too bad. You underestimated me." I put away my smile. My gaze suddenly went cold. "I did exactly as you asked. I used every method, coercion or bribery, to gradually reclaim the shares Robert, Harry, and the others held. But I did not use the company's or the Taylor family's money. I used money that I, Ethan Johnson, personally lent to Sophia Taylor. For every acquisition, I had the most professional legal team draw up 2 documents. One was a share transfer agreement to return the shares to Sophia's name. The other was an equivalent personal debt agreement, with party A being me, Ethan, and party B being Sophia. Every debt agreement bears my signature as general agent and a copy of the authorization letter you originally gave me. Legally, everything is airtight. Over the past 5 years, to buy up those scattered shares, I spent a total of $5.8 billion US. So now it isn't you who owes me $5 million as a breakup fee. It is Miss Sophia Taylor, who owe me, Ethan Johnson, $5.8 billion US. I looked at Sophia, whose face was as pale as paper, and said slowly and clearly, "According to the debt agreement clause we signed earlier, if the debt cannot be repaid when due, the creditor has the right to obtain assets of equivalent value under the debtor's name as compensation. And the most valuable asset under your name is the 58% stake in Farwind Group that you just completed gathering. So, Miss Taylor, the divorce agreement has come into effect. Now, please fulfill the debt agreement. From today on, this company will bear the surname Johnson." The living room fell into a deathly silence. Sophia stared at me intently. Those beautiful eyes of hers were no longer indifferent, but churning with tumultuous waves. She seemed to be trying to find even the slightest hint of a joke on my face. But she failed. My expression was as calm as a bottomless lake. "Ethan, you are so ruthless in your scheming." After a long while, she finally squeezed the words out through clenched teeth, her voice hoarse and trembling slightly. "Ruthless? Compared to your Taylor family, I'm still far from it. Thinking of the humiliation I've suffered these 5 years, my heart felt nothing, even a little amused. When Rebecca first found me, she humbled herself greatly. She said that if I was willing to marry in and take care of Sophia, they would treat me like their own son. But the first day I stepped through the Taylor house door, I became everyone's laughingstock. Rebecca, in front of the servants, threw a bank card at my face and said, "There's your pocket money. Use it sparingly. Remember your place. You're only for a matchmaking blessing. Don't covet what isn't yours." Sophia's Uncle Harry, at every family gathering, would pat my shoulder and loudly tell everyone, "Look how lucky Sophia is. She found such a handsome male nanny. Come on, Ethan, let Uncle Harry pour you a drink." When I poured him a drink, he would accidentally knock it over. The scalding liquid would spill onto my hand, and he'd laugh and say, "Oh, sorry, my hand slipped." Your hands are meant to take care of people. You'd better protect them. And those wealthy young men who had once courted Sophia treated me like an amusement. They would deliberately discuss their past romantic trysts with Sophia in front of me, then look at me with pitying eyes as if I were a huge joke. Bro, isn't it lonely taking care of a living dead person? I hear she can't take care of her own bathroom needs. Your daily job must be pretty entertaining. I endured all that humiliation in silence, because I knew that complaining and anger were the most useless things. The only thing I could do was lie low and wait. When Rebecca and her husband Charles came to me in a panic, hoping I could step in and, using my status as an outsider, deal with those insiders trying to seize the family fortune, I knew my chance had come. They thought I was an obedient dog, not knowing I was a starving wolf who had waited too long. They themselves placed the fangs at my mouth. And now, the hunt is over, and it's time to enjoy the spoils. This is commercial fraud. I'm going to sue you. Rebecca finally snapped out of her shock and screamed hysterically. The lawyer behind me, David Clark, the head of a top team I had flown in from Jing City at great expense, stepped forward at the right moment, handed over his business card, and, in a calm yet unmistakably professional tone, said, "Ms. Taylor, all actions taken by my client, Mr. Ethan, were carried out within the scope of the power of attorney signed by Chairman Charles and yourself. All debt agreements were notarized by a third-party notary public. The paperwork is complete and the procedures are lawful. If you have any disputes about the validity of the agreements, my team welcomes you and your lawyers to come and question us at any time. But I must remind you that malicious litigation also carries legal liabilities." With one sentence, he cut off every avenue for Rebecca. She was so angry her lips turned purple, but she couldn't utter a single word. Because that authorization was something she had initiated so I could smoothly obtain the shares from Harry and the others. She never imagined I would tamper with it. It was as if she had handed me a knife to kill our enemy, and when I swung it back, the blade pierced her own heart. The atmosphere in the entire living room was oppressively tense. Sophia's lawyer Michael was completely at a loss now. Beads of sweat ran down his temples and cheeks as he kept dabbing them with a handkerchief. He knew very well that the documents I had produced were virtually unassailable in the eyes of the law. This battle hasn't even begun, and the Taylor family is already lost. However, just as I thought the outcome was decided and was about to get up and leave to reclaim everything at the company, Sophia, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly spoke. Her voice was soft, yet like a heavy bomb that detonated thunderously beside my ear. "Ethan, do you think you've been the only one acting for these 5 years?" I was startled and looked up at her. The panic and ashen look that had been on her face were gone. In their place was an expression I couldn't describe, an extremely complicated look. In her eyes there was shock, there was anger, but more than that was a bottomless calm and a trace of an all-seeing clarity. "What do you mean?" A chill ran through me. An ominous premonition welled up. Sophia didn't answer me. She slowly stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window in the living room. The afterglow of the sunset filtered through the glass and cast a golden halo over her, giving her an almost unreal beauty. She turned her back to me, watching the bustling traffic outside the window, and said softly, "I actually regained most of my senses 3 years ago." "What?" My brain went buzz and went blank in an instant. How is this possible? If she recovered 3 years ago, then why did she keep pretending to be an idiot? For 3 years I fed her, wiped her, told her stories. All the schemes and plans I convinced myself I've been making and executing, could it be? Were they all carried out right under her nose? In an instant, a bone-deep chill shot from the soles of my feet up to the top of my head. I felt like a smug clown on a stage, thinking I had fooled the whole world, unaware that the most important spectator in the audience had been watching coldly from the very beginning. Even Rebecca stared in shock, eyes wide, looking at her daughter in disbelief. "Sophia, what did you say?" 3 years ago, Sophia turned around, her gaze locking onto me, that looked like a sharp knife, intent on cutting me open from the inside out. "That's right. 3 years ago, After a routine electroconvulsive therapy to the head, I became conscious. It's just that back then my awareness was intermittent. Sometimes I was clear for a few hours, sometimes for a few days, and then I'd fall back into chaos. But in the past year, I've fully recovered. Her voice was unnaturally calm, as if she were talking about something that had nothing to do with her. Ethan, don't you find it strange why I kept pretending to be an idiot? She curled her lips into a self-mocking smile. Because if I hadn't played dumb, 3 years ago, I would have died at the hands of my own Uncle Harry. Those words made the air in the entire living room freeze. That car accident was not an accident at all. Sophia's gaze slowly swept over her mother Rebecca's face, which was full of horror. It was Harry who bribed my driver and tampered with the brakes. His aim wasn't to kill me, but to turn me into a helpless wreck who couldn't control the company, just like I am now. The first thing I wanted to do when I woke up was expose him. But when I saw my beloved mother, she looked at Rebecca, her eyes full of disappointment and ice, choosing, for the sake of steadying the company for the so-called greater good, to put on a show with Harry and even tacitly allow him to nibble away at the company step by step. I realized there was no one in this family I could rely on. If I had revealed I was awake back then, guess what Harry would have done? He would have used a more direct, more vicious method to make me permanently shut up. And my mother would very likely still have chosen the greater good. Rebecca swayed, her complexion worse than death's. Her lips trembled. No, that's not true, Sophia. I didn't know. I really didn't know he would dare. You didn't know? Sophia sneered, cutting her off. You just don't dare to think about it. Or rather, in your heart, a complete Taylor family that won't be gossiped about by outsiders is more important than your daughter's safety. Isn't that so? Rebecca was left speechless by the question, collapsing onto the sofa as if all her strength had been drained in an instant. As for me, I was completely stunned by this earth-shattering reversal. I'd always thought my enemy was the entire Taylor family. Sophia was merely an important, thoughtless prop in my plan. But now I realize I was wrong. I was wrong through and through. Sophia, she wasn't a prop. She had always been a player. A player who hid in the dark, enduring and biding her time, waiting for the right moment. Ethan, she refocused her gaze on me. And for the first time, that look carried a real emotion, something like admiration, yet unbearably cold. I have to admit, you surprised me. After I woke up, I found that the shares Harry and Robert held were being gradually reclaimed. For while I thought my cowardly father had finally grown a spine, later I found out it was you who did all of it. You, the live-in son-in-law, everyone treated as a male nanny and a tool for a pious matchmaking alliance. I watched you. By day you were humiliatingly submissive in front of me like a dog. But at night in the study, sitting before your computer, you strategized like a wolf. I watched you cleverly exploit my mother's authorization, setting trap after trap, playing Harry and the others like puppets in your hands. Do you know? During that time, I even felt you were my only ally. I watched you take back, step by step, what I had lost. I even thought that once I fully recovered and found the evidence against Harry, I would spring a surprise on you. I would tell you everything, and then together we would sweep those jackalls up in one net. There was a trace of an inexplicable regret in her voice. I've been waiting for you to take back all the shares, and then hand them over to me, or rather, hand them to fool Sophia. I thought your goal was to become the company's hero, to become my true husband, Sophia Taylor, and stand by my side with a legitimate claim. But what I got was your carefully planned debt plunder. Her gaze fell on the debt agreement I had left on the coffee table, and the last trace of warmth in her eyes vanished. You're not an ally. You, Harry, and my mother are no different. What you want is only the shares under my name, this company. Ethan, you won the first half. But now it's my turn. After saying that, she took something out of her handbag. It was a voice recorder. She pressed the play button. A slightly aged and panicked man's voice came from the voice recorder. Miss Taylor, I'm sorry. It's all Harry's fault. He gave me $500,000 to tamper with the brake pads on your car. He said he just wanted you to get a little hurt and lie in the hospital for a while. I really didn't know it would be this serious. I've been living in a nightmare these past years. My conscience won't let me be. It was the voice of that driver back then, Tom Carter. My pupils constricted suddenly. How did Sophia find him? I searched for that driver for 2 whole years and got no word. Surprised, Sophia seemed to see through my thoughts. She turned off the recording and looked at me coldly. You think you're the only one who knows how to set things up? I found that driver 3 years ago. I gave him some money to get him and his family away to hide. The only condition was that he record this testimony and come forward to testify when I needed him. She paused, a cold curve tugging at the corner of her mouth. Ethan, what you have is the debt agreement that can get you the company. What I have is the evidence that can ruin Harry and even send my mother to prison. Now let's talk about a new deal. Her gaze, like a poisoned dagger, plunged hard into my heart. Give the company back to me. Otherwise, I'll hand this recording to the police. Then Harry and Rebecca will go to jail, and Far Wind Group will inevitably, because of this earth-shattering scandal, see its stock plunge and wobble on the brink of collapse. What you've schemed so hard to take will be nothing but a wreck. A company with a market value of tens of billions of dollars, or a shell on the verge of bankruptcy. You choose. This now is a true general. I thought I was the hawk, but I didn't realize she was the far more skillful hunter. With a single recording, she directly choked me, Harry, Rebecca, everyone by the throat. At that moment, I finally understood that what I was facing was not a recovered princess at all, but a queen who had crawled back from hell and been reborn through fire. She bet I wouldn't dare let Far Wind Group collapse. She was right. I spent 5 years of effort, the prey I finally obtained. How could I possibly stand by and watch it rot before my eyes? I stared at her intently, my mind racing. The current situation was extremely unfavorable to me. If I insisted on keeping the company, she would hand a recording to the police. Harry is the ringleader. Even if Rebecca isn't an accomplice, she cannot escape involvement. The chairman of the board's daughter, son-in-law, wife, and brother would all be dragged into a criminal case. A devastating blow for a publicly listed company. A stock price crash would be inevitable. The shares I hold would instantly plummet in value, perhaps becoming worthless. These 5 years, all my endured humiliations and burdens, all my careful maneuvers, will turn to nothing. I cannot afford to lose. The living room fell into a dreadful silence again. Rebecca was already ashen-faced, slumped on the sofa, looking at her daughter with eyes full of terror. She could never have imagined, even in her dreams, that her daughter, stupid for 5 years, would be holding the ace that could send her to hell. Lawyer Michael didn't dare to breathe, standing to one side, wishing he could disappear on the spot. This was a family matter of the Taylors, but it had now escalated into a life-or-death war. I looked at Sophia. She was looking at me in return. We were engaging in a silent duel with our eyes. After a long while, I took a deep breath and spoke slowly, my voice hoarse and unfamiliar. What do you want? A flash of a victor's light crossed Sophia's eyes, but she hid it well. First, revoke that absurd debt agreement. Legally erase this $5.8 billion debt. Second, return to me, unconditionally and intact, the 58% of the shares registered under your name. Third, she paused, her gaze sweeping over Rebecca, who sat on the sofa like a shell-shocked person. I will make Harry pay for what he has done. As for my mother, she will lose everything she currently has. Far Wind Group will be controlled by me, and only me. Her demands were ruthless, decisive, leaving no room for compromise. What she wanted was everything. And I will become that penniless Ethan Johnson once more. This hurts even more than if they had killed me outright. I could feel my fists clenched white, my nails digging deep into the flesh. A raging fury and unwillingness burned wildly within my chest. 5 years. I lived like a dog for 5 years. I trampled all my dignity underfoot to get to this point. And now, with just one recording, she expects me to spill everything? On what grounds? Just as my reason was about to be devoured by rage, a thought flashed through my mind like lightning. Something's wrong. Something about this doesn't add up. Sophia's plans seemed flawless, but there was a huge flaw. She was too hasty. If she really was, as she claimed, calculating and restrained, having endured for a full 3 years, she shouldn't have today, just as I reveal my hand, immediately played her trump card. A true hunter is more patient. She will first pretend to compromise, placate me, and then behind my back, wait for the most opportune moment to deliver a fatal strike. Her current method of threat, almost like mutual destruction, is more like an all-or-nothing gamble. She's gambling, and she's afraid. What is she afraid of? I force myself to calm down, re-examine the situation before me, and scrutinize every word she said. What I have in my hand is evidence that can ruin Harry, even my mother, and send them to prison. When the time comes, Farwind Group will inevitably suffer a catastrophic scandal, its stock price plummeting and the company tottering. Wait, stock price plummeting, the company tottering. What advantage would that be for her, even if she got the company back? A mess of a business. What would that mean for her? She would still be a loser. So using the company's future as a threat is a strategy that hurts the enemy 1,000 times and oneself 800. That doesn't fit the shrewdness she has been showing. Unless she has a fallback plan, or rather, her purpose in threatening me isn't as simple as she claims on the surface. My gaze fell once again on that small voice recorder. Recording the driver. A detail I had overlooked suddenly became incredibly clear in my mind. I've been looking for that driver for 2 years. I used every contact and resource I could, turned the entire Mist City upside down, and still couldn't find him. He seemed to have vanished into thin air. Sophia said she had found the driver 3 years ago and sent him away. That made sense. But how did she find him? 3 years ago, she was still a patient confined in the Taylor family villa, treated like an idiot by everyone. How did she, under the surveillance of Rebecca and countless servants, accurately find someone who was deliberately hiding and persuade him to leave? She didn't have that ability. She didn't have that means. Unless someone helped her. Who would help her? At the Taylor house, she was utterly alone. So, it had to be an outsider she absolutely trusted, someone capable of doing all this. And that person must be intricately connected to the car accident back then. My heart began to pound uncontrollably. I feel as though I've brushed against a deeper, darker truth. This truth is enough to overturn everything. I lifted my head to meet Sophia's cold, wary gaze, and I decided to make one more gamble. Slowly, word by word, I said, "Sophia, do you think you've already won?" She didn't speak. She only furrowed her brow more tightly. I laughed, a laugh that was a little insane and a little relieved. "Your plan is indeed perfect. With one piece of incriminating evidence, you threatened me, Harry, and Rebecca all at once. 2 birds with 1 stone. Brilliant, truly brilliant. But did you ever consider one question?" I stood up and walked toward her step by step. My approach made her instinctively take a step back, a barely perceptible panic flashing in her eyes. "That driver, why did he help you?" I stared into her eyes, not missing a single flicker of expression. "He took Harry's money and caused you to become an idiot. Logically, the person he should fear most is you. The moment you came to, he should have run for his life first. Why would he obediently record a testimony and even be willing to be hidden by you to become a pawn for your future comeback?" Sophia's complexion finally changed. There are only 2 things in this world that can make someone risk their life to keep a secret, even betray their former master. One is a benefit that far outweighs the risk. The other is a compromising piece of evidence that dooms them utterly. You were penniless at the time and trapped in the Taylor house. You couldn't have offered him a benefit big enough to make him betray Harry. Then only the second possibility remains. I stopped in front of her, looking down from above, my voice pressed so low it sounded like a whisper from hell. "So, are you holding some leverage over that driver? Or could it be that the truth about that accident back then isn't what the recording says? You faked that recording." Those words struck the living room like a thunderbolt. Sophia's body trembled violently. The face that had maintained calm and haughtiness finally showed a crack. Her pupils widened in an instant, filled with shock and disbelief. You're talking nonsense, she snapped, but the conviction in her voice was clearly gone. And I, seeing her reaction, finally felt the weight that had been hanging over me drop from my chest. I was right to bet. That recording is tampered with. You think I'm making this up? I sneered and laid out all the deductions in my head. 3 years ago, your mind recovered, but your actions were restricted at every turn. The only outsider you could contact who was trustworthy and capable of doing things for you was one person. That was your attending physician, the neurology specialist who returned from abroad, Dr. Lewis Brown. I looked into him. He's a gambler who racked up a huge gambling debt in Las Vegas. It was your father, Charles, who paid off all his debts to bring him back to the country and put him under treatment, specifically for you. So he's fiercely loyal to your tailors, especially to your father. It was you who had Lewis find that hit-and-run driver for you. But when you found him, he probably wouldn't admit he was acting on Harry's orders, right? Because the real instigator might not have been Harry at all. You couldn't get anything out of him. But you're clever. You know that to take everything back, you need an enemy of sufficient weight, someone everyone will accept as the sinner. And Harry, a man who's long coveted the company and is foolishly arrogant, is the perfect choice. So you and Lewis set a trap. You found the driver's weakness, perhaps his only son, or some other leverage, and forced him, following the script you wrote, to record that testimony. That recording, from beginning to end, was an elaborately staged play. The aim was to, today here, take down Harry, intimidate Rebecca, and finally take the company back from me. My voice grew louder and louder, stronger and stronger. Sophia's face turned pale inch by inch. She braced herself against the wall behind her to stay standing. For the first time, genuine fear showed in her eyes. She hadn't expected that I could, in such a short time, deduce the whole truth of the matter from just a few seemingly unrelated details. No, it's not like that. She still tried to defend herself in vain, but her voice was already faint as a mosquito's hum. Why don't we find that driver and confront him face to face? Won't that make things clear? I pressed step by step, my momentum completely overpowering her. You hit him well. But Sophia, don't forget, for the past 5 years, the one who truly controlled the Taylor family's information network was me. I took out my phone and dialed a number. Jack, you may bring the guest in. A steady male voice came from the other end of the line. Okay, Mr. Ethan. After hanging up, I looked at Sophia, whose face had gone ashen, and pronounced my final judgment on her. You think that by enduring for 3 years you've seen through everything. You think you've got the ace and can control the whole situation. But you miscalculated one thing. Over the past 5 years, while I was still the foolish husband in your eyes, I had already planted my people in every corner of the Taylor household. From the driver to the gardener, and even the little assistant beside the Lewis you trust most. Every secret meeting between you and him, every call, every step of the plan. You think I don't know, but I know everything down to the smallest detail. Where you found that hit-and-run driver, how you blackmailed him, and where you hid him, I know all of it. You think you're on the 5th floor, looking down at me on the 1st floor. What you don't realize is that I've actually always been in the stratosphere. No sooner had I finished speaking than the villa's front gate was pushed open from the outside. My assistant Jack Wilson walked in with a slight, terrified-looking middle-aged man. It was the same Tom Carter, the driver who had been missing for 5 years. The moment Sophia saw Tom, all of her mental defenses completely collapsed. Her legs went weak, and she sank down onto the cold floor. The face that had once been imperious was left only with despair. Tom, seeing the commotion in the living room, and especially seeing Sophia and me, was so frightened that he fell to his knees with a thump and kept kowtowing. Mr. Ethan, Miss Taylor, have mercy. I was forced into this. It was Dr. Lewis who found me and said if I didn't do as he said, he would bring my son back from abroad and hand him over to those debt collectors. I had no choice. The truth finally came to light. even uglier and more complicated than what Sophia had revealed. No one was acting. Or rather, everyone was acting. I looked at Tom kneeling on the ground, then at Sophia collapsed on the floor, and finally my gaze fell on Rebecca, who had looked like an outsider the whole time, but now wore a face full of shock and pain. There wasn't the slightest trace of satisfaction in my heart. There was only a kind of weariness and desolation that penetrated to the bone. Now, I withdrew all emotion and returned to my original calm. Can we talk again? My words were directed at Sophia. She looked up. Those eyes that had once been as cold and bright as stars were now dim, bloodshot, and filled with tears. She had lost. She was utterly defeated, battered, and broken. The scheme she had been proud of had become a huge joke in front of the person she despised most. This total spiritual destruction was more cruel than any punishment. What do you want?" she asked in a hoarse voice, like a beaten, trapped animal. "What do I want? I want to take back everything that belongs to me. In these 5 years, what I have given, what I have endured, what I have lost, I will take it back tenfold, 100-fold. I no longer look at her. Instead, I turn toward the real mastermind behind the scenes. My gaze cuts across the entire living room, aiming straight toward the study on the second floor. There, a person was standing. A man who had been standing there in silence, watching everything since we began arguing. My former father-in-law, Sophia's father, chairman of Far Wind Group, Charles. "Mr. Taylor," I called out loudly, "you've been watching the show for so long. Isn't it time you came down and gave an explanation?" Everyone followed my gaze and, shocked, looked up to the second floor. Charles was wearing a dark set of loungewear, his face so sullen it seemed to drip. He slowly walked down the stairs, each step feeling like it was being taken on everyone's hearts. Rebecca looked at him in disbelief. "Charles, when did you come back?" Charles ignored her and walked to the center of the living room. His eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Anger, guilt, but more than that, a helplessness that came with the situation having reached this point. He looked at me and said in a low voice, "Ethan, you won." "Yes, I won. From the moment I saw through Sophia's scheme and brought Tom here, I'd already won, because I held everyone's secrets in my hands." Sophia forged evidence with the intent to frame someone. Rebecca knew about it and said nothing, enabling and covering it up. And Charles. I looked at him and smiled coldly. "Mr. Taylor, actually I've had a question I couldn't figure out. Who was responsible for that car accident back then? Harry was foolish, but he wouldn't have the nerve to do something so deadly to his own niece. Rebecca may be heartless, but even a tigress does not eat her cubs. She wouldn't do it either. Sophia herself. She had even less reason. Then, ruling out all impossibilities, the one that's left, no matter how unbelievable, must be the truth. I looked into Charles's eyes and said, word by word, "Mr. Taylor, you were the one who did it back then, weren't you?" Those words struck Rebecca and Sophia, who had only just begun to recover, like a thunderbolt once more. Sophia jerked her head up, staring fixedly at her father, her eyes filled with a despair and pain even deeper than before. "Dad, it you?" Charles's body shook violently. He closed his eyes, his face contorted in extreme anguish. After a long time, he finally opened his eyes, his voice filled with endless exhaustion and remorse. It's me." He admitted it. "What?" Sophia's voice tore out of her throat. "I'm your daughter. Why would you do this to me?" Charles looked at her, tears streaming down his face. "Sophia, I'm sorry. Dad is sorry," he choked out. "Back then, you were too hasty. You had just returned from abroad and wanted to make sweeping reforms to the company. You wanted to fire all the elders connected to our family, bring in outside capital, dilute the Taylor family's controlling stake. You were shaking the foundation of the company. I warned you so many times, and you wouldn't listen. You're so much like I was when I was young, proud, confident, unwilling to hear anyone's advice. I was afraid. I was afraid that if you kept going like that, you would ruin Far Wind Group, ruin the life's work of my whole life. I had no choice. I really had no choice. I found that driver, I only wanted you to have a small accident, to be in the hospital and calm down for a while, to make you stop and think. I really didn't expect things to get out of control, to make you." He couldn't go on. A man past 50 stood before everyone, weeping bitterly. What a laughable excuse. For his so-called life's work, he could sacrifice his own biological daughter. This is high society. Beneath the glamorous surface lies endless filth and cruelty. Sophia stared at him blankly and smiled. That smile was uglier than crying. "So, you turned me into an idiot. Then you found Ethan, the good-for-nothing in your eyes, to bless the marriage, to take care of me, to keep everyone in the company in check. Then you pretended to retire due to illness, pushed all the matters onto my mother, let her and Harry fight out front, while you hid behind the scenes, watching all of us perform like clowns, right? Dad, you really are playing a huge game." She laughed until tears streamed down her face. The entire Taylor household, from top to bottom, inside and out, was already rotten through. Now it was time to end all of this. I took out my phone and, in front of everyone, pressed the record button. Charles's words just now, admitting his crime with his own mouth, were recorded by me, word for word. This is my third and final trump card. Charles, Sophia Taylor, Rebecca. I called each of their names. Now, let's talk about the final terms. First, 58% of Farwind Group's shares belong to me. Not a debt pledge, but a formal transfer of equity. Tomorrow morning, I want to see the result at the board meeting. Second, I accept this divorce agreement and the $5 million. From now on, I, Ethan Johnson, have no further ties with your Taylor family. Third, my gaze swept over each of their defeated faces. Everything you did and everything you said today, I recorded it all. If you agree to my terms, these things will disappear forever. If you don't agree, I raise the two phones in my hand. The contents of one of these phones will ruin you. The other case will make you rot in prison. How to choose is up to you. After speaking, I didn't look at them again and turned toward the main gate. Jack and Tom followed closely behind. When I reached the door, I stopped and did not look back. By the way, one more thing. For the past 5 years, every night, I have told Sophia a bedtime story, no matter rain or shine. I always thought she couldn't understand. But since she woke up 3 years ago, she must have heard the more than 700 stories that followed. Sophia, consider this the last gift I give you for the past 5 years. May you have good luck for the rest of your life. After speaking, I opened the door and walked out without looking back. Outside, the sky had gone completely dark. The city's neon lights glittered in the distance, like a dazzling sea of stars. I drew a deep breath of free, crisp air and felt all the shackles that had weighed on me these past 5 years shatter completely in that moment. I didn't look back. I knew what kind of human tragedy was unfolding in the mansion behind me. I knew Charles had no other choice. He would agree to all my conditions. Because more than losing the company, he feared losing his freedom and the Taylor family being destroyed. I knew Sophia, that proud, shrewd, and cold yet unbearably pitiable woman, would spend the rest of her life trying to come to terms with the tragedy her family had caused. I took back everything that was rightfully mine. No, it was far more than what I deserved. I am not a saint. I will not feel sorry for any of them. Their current situations are the consequences of their own actions. I only reclaimed my dignity and the 5 years I lost. At 10 the next morning, Farwind Group convened an emergency board meeting. At the meeting, Charles cited health reasons and announced his resignation as chairman, transferring the total 58% of shares held jointly by him and his daughter Sophia to the company's largest creditor, Ethan Johnson. Ethan Johnson, a penniless nobody 5 years ago, overnight became the new owner of this multi-billion-dollar group. When the news broke, the entire business world of Fog City was shaken. I did not go to that coronation that belonged to me. Alone, I went to the top floor of the tallest building in Fog City. I looked down at my feet at this bustling city, traffic weaving like threads, people swarming like ants. On my phone, I received a message from Rebecca's lawyer. The $5 million hard work fee had been credited. I smiled and casually donated that sum to the orphanage where I grew up. I, Ethan Johnson, will never need anyone's charity again. From now on, my life is mine to decide. Behind me, my assistant Jack's voice came. Mr. Ethan, over at the Taylors. Miss Sophia seems to have attempted suicide and is being rushed to the hospital. I didn't look back. I just gave a faint. What did her life or death have to do with me? Back then, after she came to, she chose to use that forged recording against me. Whatever last shred of feeling remained between us was already severed. I'm not a saint, and I certainly won't put on some melodrama of regret and empty desolation. The moment I stepped out of the Taylor house, a whole new chapter of my life had already begun. As for those who betrayed me, humiliated me, and schemed against me, their fate is the medal of my victory. I looked at the distant skyline. The sun was rising from the clouds, flooding everything with golden light. A new era has begun, an era that belongs to me, Ethan Johnson. This feeling is truly awesome. George, I've got good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first? I put down my paintbrush and looked at my friend Frank. He stood at the studio door with a mysterious air, his face a mix of nervousness and excitement. Let's start with the bad news. After all, I've gotten used to it these past 3 years. Your painting, Eternity, just sold for a sky-high price. Over $6 million. I frowned. How is that bad news? Frank chuckled. Because it's actually part of the good news. The bad news is, buddy, you might need to see a psychiatrist. What do you mean? A woman who looks exactly like Mary showed up at your art exhibition. I almost thought I was seeing a ghost. The paintbrush slipped from my hand and fell to the floor, splattering paint across the unfinished canvas. Mary, my late wife, died 3 years ago after accidentally falling off a cliff. I watched with my own eyes as her body was pulled from the water. In that moment, my world completely collapsed. Stop joking around, Frank. Why would I lie to you? She even left this. Frank handed me a note with an address and a time written on it. My hand trembled slightly. The handwriting was exactly the same as Mary's. That night, I waited until midnight at the designated cafe. Just as I was about to leave, a familiar figure appeared at the door. Mary? No, it couldn't be her. But every gesture of that woman, from the tips of her hair to her fingertips, was a shadow of Mary. George, it's been a long time. She sat across from me, and the familiar voice nearly made my heart stop. Who are you? I struggled to remain calm. I'm Mary, your wife. She smiled and reached out her hand. There was a scar on her palm, the mark Mary got when she accidentally cut herself on glass at 15. Impossible. Mary is already dead. She laughed softly. That was just an accident. I fell off the cliff and was saved by a reclusive old doctor. I lost my memory from the injuries and only recently remembered everything. As she spoke, tears began to fall with an expression I knew all too well, the look Mary wore whenever she felt wronged. I know it's hard to believe, but I really am Mary. I couldn't believe my eyes. The shade of lipstick Mary loved most, the faint little mole beneath her left ear, the unconscious habit of rubbing her ring while speaking. Everything was so familiar. Are you really Mary? She nodded and took a small box out of her bag. This is the proof. Inside the box was the first piece of jewelry Mary ever designed. A sapphire ring, the only one of its kind, never mass-produced. I brought it with me that day because I wanted to surprise you. I suddenly stood up and pulled her into my arms. 3 years of longing surged over me like a tide. I held her tightly, afraid that if I let go, she would disappear again. On the way home, she told me about her experiences over the past 3 years. She was rescued by an old doctor in the mountains, lost her memory due to a severe head injury, and lived in a remote mountain village for more than 2 years. It wasn't until she happened to see a poster for my art exhibition that her memory gradually returned. The next day, I took her to see Frank. Oh my God, it really is you, Mary. Frank stared in astonishment, eyes wide. Frank, it's been a long time. She greeted him with a smile, exactly as I remembered. Frank pulled me aside and whispered, Man, this is unbelievable, but I really believe it's her. Who else but Mary could call me by my childhood nickname so accurately? That was something only the two of you knew. A week later, Mary officially returned. We held a small welcome party for her. Her mother was so overwhelmed that she fainted, and when she woke up, She clung to her daughter and refused to let go. But that night, I noticed the first sign that something was off. Mary never ate mangoes because she was severely allergic. Yet the returned Mary absent-mindedly tasted a mango dessert and was perfectly fine. "Aren't you allergic to mangoes?" I asked. She paused for a moment, then quickly laughed and said, "Oh, that old Chinese doctor cured my allergy. He's really amazing." I nodded, but in my heart, I marked the first question mark. Is this really my wife? A month passed quickly, and Mary blended perfectly into our lives. She knew the location of every item in the house, remembered our shared memories, and could even accurately name friends we hadn't contacted in years. But those subtle feelings of discord kept growing. For example, the real Mary liked to listen to classical music, especially Debussy, while designing jewelry. But she would always unconsciously hum along to pop songs. Mary always habitually used her left hand to hold chopsticks, even though she knew it was wrong. She just couldn't change. But she was a standard right-handed user. The most obvious difference appeared that night when I accidentally caught her smoking in the bedroom. The real Mary hated the smell of smoke. Even when I came home from social events with a faint scent of cigarettes, she would frown. "When did you start smoking?" I stood at the doorway, my voice soft. She was clearly startled, hastily snuffing out the cigarette. This is a herbal cigarette for treating insomnia, prescribed by an old Chinese doctor." I nodded, not pressing further, but the doubts in my heart only grew deeper. The next day, I went to find Frank. "Help me check if, in the past 3 years, plastic surgery technology has advanced enough to achieve this level." Frank's eyes widened. "You mean, she's not Mary?" "I'm not sure, but there are always some things that don't add up." 2 days later, Frank brought news. High-end plastic surgery can make faces look similar, but it can't replicate the exact placement of scars or moles. And there's a limit to how well someone can imitate a voice. What if it was a twin? Frank shook his head. "Mary is an only child. We all know that." I decided not to show my feelings for now and to keep observing. A week later, Mary's mother came to my house with astonishing news. "George, Mary is going to have a baby," my mother-in-law told me excitedly. I stood there stunned. Before we got married, Mary had been diagnosed with uterine hypoplasia. The doctor had made it clear she could never get pregnant. This was our shared secret. Not even my mother-in-law knew. How do you know that?" I managed to ask. "Mary told me this morning. She said she already had a checkup. It's been 2 months. My mother-in-law happily grabbed my hand. "It's a blessing from above. Mary survived death, and now she can bring us new life." My heart sank to the bottom. This absolutely could not be Mary. That night, I dug out the hospital's diagnosis certificate in my study, which clearly stated the condition of Mary's uterus. But when I wanted to talk to Mary about it, I found her in the bedroom, excitedly discussing the decoration of the nursery with my mother-in-law. "Mary, could you come here for a moment?" I called her calmly. She followed me into the study, still wearing a blissful smile on her face. "Did you forget about this?" I handed her the diagnosis certificate. She took it and glanced at it, her face instantly turning pale. "George, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Explain that you're not Mary at all." Mother-in-law heard the commotion and walked in. "What's going on with you two?" "Mom, take a look at this." I handed her the proof. My mother-in-law read it, then looked at Mary in astonishment. "What's going on?" "Mary, you can't have children." "Of course she can," I sneered, "because she's not Mary at all." My mother-in-law's face changed dramatically. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "I can explain." She hurriedly grabbed my mother-in-law's hand. "That old Chinese doctor not only saved my life, but also cured my uterine problem. It's a miracle, truly." My mother-in-law looked at me, then at her, hesitating. "George, you're being too paranoid." My mother-in-law finally took her daughter's side. "Mary has come back with great difficulty. You should cherish her, not doubt her." "Yes, George, I know this is hard to accept, but miracles do happen." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Haven't we always wanted a child? Now we can finally have our own baby." I looked at her face, identical to Mary's, yet I became more certain in my heart. This woman was not my wife. "All right, I believe you." I smiled, deciding to go along with their story for now. Let's wait together for this miracle to happen. That night, I secretly contacted a private detective. My mother-in-law gladly accepted her daughter's explanation, even suggesting she move in with us to take care of Mary during her pregnancy. Outwardly, I agreed, But inside I grew even more wary. This was no coincidence. There had to be some kind of plot. Mom, haven't you always lived in Haicheng? Won't it be hard to get used to living here? I probed cautiously. For my grandson, I'm willing to endure any inconvenience, my mother-in-law said firmly. I noticed a fleeting unnatural expression on Mary's face. Could the truth be connected to my mother-in-law? On the third day after my mother-in-law moved in, I discovered more suspicious details. For example, the real Mary never drank coffee, but she and my mother-in-law often enjoyed it together. Also, Mary's favorite movie was Roman Holiday, but she claimed to prefer Titanic. The strangest thing is, Mary used to despise her cousin Tom when she was alive, but now he visits frequently and chats and laughs with Mary as if they're old friends. I told Frank about these discoveries. Buddy, things are getting more and more suspicious, Frank frowned. Are you sure you want to keep going like this? Why not just expose her directly? It's not the right time yet. I want to find out what they're really after. The private detective's investigation also made progress. The so-called old Chinese doctor who had saved Mary did not exist at all, and Mary's whereabouts over the past 3 years were completely untraceable. More importantly, the private detective uncovered a shocking fact during the investigation. Mary's cousin Tom was deeply in debt from gambling, and the painting Eternity under my name, worth over $6 million, was his only hope for quick cash. They're after your painting, the private detective asserted, and this fake Mary is likely a professional identity fraudster, hired to win your trust. I took a deep breath and decided to take the initiative. That afternoon, I pretended to go out, but secretly returned home and hid in the study. Sure enough, Mary and her cousin Tom were whispering to each other in the living room. It's taking too long, Tom said irritably. How much longer until he sells the painting? Don't worry, she soothed him. I'm already pregnant, and now he completely believes I'm Mary. In a little while, I'll say I want to move to a better neighborhood for the sake of the baby, and then we'll naturally need to sell the painting to raise money. You're really pregnant? That wasn't part of the plan. It was an accident, but it works to our advantage. George wants a child so badly. Does Annie know the truth? She only knows we're trying to scam money, not the specific plan. But she hates George, thinks he caused her daughter's death, so she's more than happy to help. I clenched my fists. So my mother-in-law had always believed that Mary's accident was somehow my fault. In fact, we did argue over something trivial that day, and Mary stormed out in anger. I didn't try to stop her. But I never imagined it would be the last time I'd see her. You don't actually have feelings for George, do you? Tom suddenly asked. She was silent for a moment. It's just part of the job. Besides, I owe you, and I won't go back on my word. Good then. Don't forget how we're splitting the money once we get it. Their conversation confirmed my suspicions. This was all an elaborate scheme, with my eternity as the target. In the days that followed, I pretended everything was normal while secretly making preparations. I contacted the police, arranged for evidence-gathering equipment, and found the last piece Mary had left before she died, a silver necklace that had never been made public, engraved with an anniversary date only the two of us knew. 2 weeks later, my art exhibition was held as scheduled. As planned, Mary brought up the idea of moving, hinting that I could sell Eternity. I pretended to agree and said I would auction the painting on the last day of the exhibition. This is a surprise I prepared for you, I said on the eve of the exhibition, taking out a delicate box. To celebrate the new life we're about to begin. She opened the box in surprise, and inside was the silver necklace. It's beautiful, thank you. She smiled as she prepared to put it on. Wait, I stopped her. Aren't you going to look at the engraving on the back? She turned the necklace over, and her face suddenly went pale. What's wrong? Don't you like it? I asked, feigning ignorance. No, I really like it. It's just, I'm a bit moved. She forced a smile, but didn't know how to explain that she couldn't recognize the significance of that date. See you tomorrow. Get some good rest, and don't forget to wear this necklace. I kissed her forehead and whispered in her ear, after all, this is your final design. Her body visibly stiffened for a moment, but she kept smiling. Of course, I cherish it very much. Tomorrow, the truth will come to light. On the day of the exhibition, the place was packed with people. My painting, Eternity, was displayed in the most prominent spot, right next to the last batch of jewelry designs Mary had created before her death. Mary held my arm, flawlessly playing the role of my wife as always. She had even gone out of her way to wear Mary's favorite white dress and the silver necklace I had given her last night. My mother-in-law and Tom were there too. The three of them exchanged glances from time to time, clearly waiting for the perfect moment. Frank appeared as planned, pretending to be extremely interested in eternity and asking me about the auction details. The auction will begin promptly at 4 in the afternoon, I replied with a smile. This painting means a great deal to me, and I hope it finds someone who truly appreciates it. Mary immediately chimed in. Yes, although it's hard to part with it, this is a necessary decision for our future. I noticed she glanced at Tom, who gave a barely perceptible nod. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the projector in the center of the exhibition hall lit up. This was the special segment I had arranged. Ladies and gentlemen, I stood in front of eternity. Before the auction begins, I'd like to share a little story about this painting. Mary's photo appeared on the projection screen, a group picture from her last birthday party before she passed away. 3 years ago, my wife Mary died in an accident. I created this painting, Eternity, in her memory. The woman in the painting has her back to the viewer, forever gazing into the distance, symbolizing a longing I can never reach. A soft sigh rippled through the crowd. Mary stood beside me, matching my words with a sorrowful expression. However, a month ago, a miracle happened. I turned to look at Mary. My wife came back. The whole room erupted in astonishment, and many people curiously sized up, Mary. This is my wife, Mary. I took her hand and stepped forward. Back from the dead, it's truly the greatest blessing heaven could have given me. She smiled and nodded to everyone, while my mother-in-law and Tom stood by with smug expressions. However, my tone suddenly shifted. Amidst my joy, a question arose. Is she really Mary? The entire room fell silent. Mary's hand trembled slightly in my palm. So, I did some investigating. The projector switched to a set of comparison photos. On the left was the real Mary. On the right was a photo of her. They look exactly the same, don't they? But I clicked the remote, and the photo was enlarged, the details highlighted. The position of the piercing on the left ear was slightly different, the arch of the eyebrows subtly varied, and the fine lines at the corners of the eyes ran in different directions. These are details that even professional plastic surgery cannot fully replicate. Mary tried to pull her hand away, but I held on tightly. My mother-in-law and Tom also began to grow anxious, glancing toward the exit. More importantly, the real Mary has a feature that cannot be copied. I turned to Mary. The necklace I gave you last night has a date engraved on the back. Can you tell everyone what that date is? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. That was the due date of our first child, the one we lost. I spoke softly, my voice trembling with emotion. Mary designed this necklace to commemorate the baby we never got to meet. The date was our secret, only Mary and I knew. The room fell utterly silent. Mary turned deathly pale, my mother-in-law's eyes widened, and Tom had already started edging toward the door. What surprised me even more, I continued, was that the real Mary could never get pregnant due to an underdeveloped uterus. Yet this, Mary claims she's already 2 months along. I let go of her hand and took a step back. So, who are you really? A flicker of despair flashed in Mary's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. I am Mary, it's just that old Chinese doctor. The non-existent old Chinese doctor, right? I sneered. Just like the non-existent amnesia, the non-existent miraculous recovery. I turned toward the projection screen. Let's see the truth. The screen played the secretly recorded video of her conversation with Tom, their discussion on how to swindle eternity, clearly audible. This isn't. She tried to explain, but my mother-in-law had already rushed forward. Who are you really? My mother-in-law screamed. You're not my daughter? Auntie, stop pretending, I said calmly. You know she's not Mary. You just wanted to get back at me, didn't you? My mother-in-law's face turned pale. I didn't know she was going to impersonate Mary. Tom just said he needed help to scam some money. Police. Don't move. Several plainclothes officers emerged from the crowd, blocking Tom as he tried to escape. Amid the chaos, Mary took the opportunity to shove me aside and run toward the exit. I chased after her and caught up in the parking lot. Tell me, who are you really? She finally stopped, turned to face me, tears welling in her eyes. My name is Luna. I'm an actress. Tom found me and said if I helped trick you out of a painting, he'd give me $1 million. I needed the money for my sister's medical treatment. Why did they choose me? Why Mary? She shook her head. I don't know. They gave me a lot of information, photos, videos, even your chat logs. I was just following the script. The police arrived and took her away. I stood where I was, gazing at the distant sky, my heart a tumult of emotions. Back in the exhibition hall, the crowd had already dispersed, leaving only Frank and a few police officers. It's all been cleared up, Frank walked over. Tom owed money to loan sharks and was desperate. Your mother-in-law always resented you for not saving Mary, so she helped them plan the whole thing. I walked up to Eternity, gently caressing the back of the woman in the painting. Mary, I can finally give you an answer. The police left with the evidence. Frank patted me on the shoulder. What do you plan to do next? I took a deep breath. Prepare for the final painting. What will it be called? The Pursuit, I said softly. This time, I'll paint her face, not just her back. After the case was solved, my life seemed to return to where it was 3 years ago. Eternity was temporarily held by the court as crucial evidence. Tom and Luna were arrested for fraud, and my mother-in-law was investigated as an accomplice. The prosecution wants you to testify in court, the officer called to inform me. The trial is scheduled for early next month. I agreed, though I was utterly exhausted inside. After exposing the deception, I thought I would feel the thrill of revenge, but what I felt instead was a profound emptiness. Those days spent with Mary that month had allowed me to feel a trace of warmth in life again, even if that warmth was born of lies. Frank often came to see me, worried I might fall into despair once more. I told him not to worry, that I was working on a new piece, The Pursuit. Are you really going to paint Mary's face from the front? Frank asked curiously. For the past 3 years, you've always refused to do that. It's time, I replied. We can't live in the past forever. I moved out of the apartment I had shared with Mary and returned to the old house in the suburbs, the place where the real Mary and I had first made our home. The dust-laden memories in the house brought me both pain and comfort. Mary's studio remained just as she had left it, design sketches scattered across the table, unfinished jewelry drafts pinned to the drawing board. One afternoon, while sorting through Mary's belongings, I discovered an encrypted external hard drive. After several attempts, I finally unlocked it using our wedding anniversary as the password. Inside were backups of Mary's design works, along with some personal photos and videos. One folder in particular caught my attention. Inside a folder named Plan was a series of jewelry design sketches, labeled George's Birthday Special Project. It was then I remembered that, in the months before Mary passed away, she often spoke mysteriously about giving me an unparalleled birthday surprise. Leafing through these design drafts, I couldn't help but be moved to tears. Mary had planned to design a jewelry collection inspired by my paintings over the years, with each piece corresponding to a representative work from my artistic career. The last page was a sketch of a ring, with a dark red stone set in the center, its edges adorned with tiny diamonds, closely resembling the sunrise in my early work, Dawn. This is blood amber? I examined the notes carefully, confirming the name of this rare gemstone. Mary's designs had always been bold, but blood amber is extremely rare in the Chinese market, almost impossible to acquire. How did she obtain such a material? As I continued searching, I found a series of email correspondence screenshots. Mary had actually contacted a gemstone dealer in Myanmar, commissioning the blood amber specifically for this ring. The last email showed that the gem had already been shipped, but the date was exactly 1 week before Mary's death. I immediately called Frank. Help me check if there was a package sent from Myanmar 3 years ago, addressed to Mary. 2 days later, Frank brought news. The package did exist, but since no one signed for it, it was returned. However, according to the shipping records, it was resent a month ago, this time addressed to you. What? I was completely confused. I haven't received any package. Check your old apartment? Frank suggested. Back at my old apartment, the manager told me there was indeed a package, but it had been signed for by Mary. She said it was a surprise for you, so she didn't notify you, the manager explained. This meant Luna had taken the blood amber. I rushed to the detention center and requested to see Luna. Separated by glass, she looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but still wore that face so similar to Mary's. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. A month ago, you signed for a package from Myanmar. There was a blood amber inside. I want to know where it is. She looked surprised. How did you know? Tom asked me to sign for it. He said it was some precious gem. He took it. My heart sank. Tom was deep in gambling debt. A precious blood amber would be a windfall for him. He had probably sold it long ago. That blood amber is very important to me, I said softly. It was the last gift my wife left me. Luna was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, maybe it's not that bad. Tom said the stone has flaws, its value is greatly reduced, and he hasn't found a suitable buyer yet. Hope was rekindled. If Tom hadn't sold the blood amber yet, maybe there was still a chance to get it back. Do you know where he might hide it? Luna hesitated for a moment. He has a safe deposit box in a self-storage facility on the east side of the city. After getting the address, I immediately contacted the officer in charge of the case and explained the situation. Since Tom was involved in a large sum of money, the police quickly approved the search request. Mr. George, we've found the safe deposit box, the officer said over the phone. Inside, we did find the blood amber you described, as well as some other evidence. A few hours later, I retrieved the blood amber at the police station. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. Within the dark red core, wisps of mist seemed to swirl, shifting strangely under the light. This was the birthday gift Mary had so carefully chosen for me, waiting for 3 years. Back home, I carefully placed the blood amber beside the canvas of the pursuit. The painting was already more than half finished, Mary's face emerging from the blur into clarity, yet it still felt like something was missing. Watching the blood amber glimmer faintly under the light, I suddenly understood how I should complete the painting. The creation of the pursuit entered its final stage. I decided to break convention and incorporate the blood amber into the artwork. This would not only be a portrait, but a hybrid piece that fused painting with the art of jewelry. Are you sure you want to do this? Frank frowned. That blood amber is priceless. That's exactly why, I said firmly. Mary chose it for me. She wanted to inspire an unparalleled masterpiece. I will fulfill her wish. For 2 whole weeks, I worked day and night, neglecting sleep and food. I cut the blood amber into thin slices and inlaid them at the spot of Mary's eyes on the canvas, making her gaze truly come alive. I used a special technique to blend the surrounding paint, creating a harmonious transition with the gemstone. From certain angles, the entire painting seemed to be imbued with life, and Mary's expression would shift depending on where the viewer stood. On the day I finished the piece, Frank brought news. Luna had been sentenced to 3 years in prison, but due to her good attitude in confessing, she might serve only 1.5 years. Tom, involved in multiple fraud cases, was sentenced to 7 years. My mother-in-law, as an accomplice, received a suspended sentence. The case is finally over, Frank said. Are you planning to exhibit your painting? Yes. Next month there will be a solo exhibition at the National Art Museum, and The Pursuit will be the grand finale. The curator couldn't stop praising this piece, believing it represents the innovative direction of contemporary art and marks the pinnacle of my career. Indeed, this painting, which incorporates Mary's jewelry design concepts, is in some sense a creation we made together. On the eve of the exhibition, I checked the arrangement in the gallery alone one last time, making sure every piece was perfectly lit and positioned. When I reached The Pursuit, I couldn't help but stop and gaze at it. Mary's face was vividly lifelike, her eyes inlaid with blood amber gleaming under the spotlight, as if she were smiling at me. For the first time in 3 years, I faced her directly, no longer painting only her back. Mr. George, a stranger's voice called from behind. Sorry to disturb you, but the gallery has been cleared. He turned around to see a young woman dressed in the museum's staff uniform. And you are? I'm the new curator, responsible for security in your exhibition area, she explained with a smile. I really like your work, especially this piece, The Pursuit. Thank you. I nodded. I'll be leaving soon. She didn't leave, but continued to gaze at the painting. That red gem is beautiful, almost as if it's alive. It's blood amber, I explained, a very rare gemstone. I know, she said softly, top-grade blood amber from Myanmar, containing plant fossils, extremely rare. I looked at her in surprise. You know a lot about jewelry? She smiled. I studied jewelry design. I'm just working part-time here. For some reason, Mary suddenly came to mind. She, too, had an almost obsessive passion for and expertise in gemstones. If you don't mind me asking, who is the woman in this painting? She asked. My wife, I replied. She passed away 3 years ago. She was a jewelry designer. I'm very sorry, she said sincerely, then gestured toward the blood amber. This gem must mean a great deal to you. It was the last birthday gift she chose for me before she died, but I only found it recently. She nodded thoughtfully. Setting it into her portrait is the best way to remember her. For some reason, talking with this unfamiliar woman brought me a strange sense of calm. Perhaps it was her love for jewelry that reminded me of Mary. Sorry, I have to continue my rounds. She glanced at her watch. See you tomorrow, Mr. George. See you tomorrow, I replied, watching her leave. On the way home, I felt an unusual peace. The completion of The Pursuit seemed to mark the end of my search for Mary as well. Not forgetting, but remembering her forever in another way. The next day, the exhibition's opening ceremony attracted numerous figures from the art world and the media. The Pursuit undoubtedly became the center of attention, with people marveling at this innovative form of artistic expression. Amid the crowd, I noticed that curator standing aside, watching as well. Sunlight streamed through the skylight of the gallery, falling upon her, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Mary's shadow. No, I shook my head, warning myself not to be deceived by mere resemblance. There would never be another Mary in this world, just as there would never be another unique blood amber. After the exhibition, The Pursuit was purchased by an anonymous collector for an astronomical price. I donated all the proceeds to a foundation supporting students in jewelry design, establishing a scholarship in Mary's name. Life slowly moved forward, and I began to accept new commissions and create new works. Occasionally, I would think of that curator with a unique insight into jewelry, wondering if she was still working at the art museum. Until one day, I received an email from HL. There were no words, only an image. A sketch of a ring design, the style strikingly similar to Mary's unfinished series. My heart raced as I replied immediately. Who is this? The response came quickly. Yesterday, you brushed past me by the cafe on the street corner, but you didn't recognize me. If you want to know more, wait for me at the museum entrance at noon tomorrow. Is it that librarian? How could she have a design so reminiscent of Mary's style? Filled with anxiety and anticipation, I decided to accept the invitation and find out for myself. The next day at noon, I arrived at the art museum half an hour early. The sun was shining, and small groups of visitors were coming and going from the exhibition hall. But there was no sign of the mysterious person. Just as I began to suspect this might be some kind of prank, a faint trace of perfume drifted by, a scent unfamiliar to me, yet it inexplicably reminded me of Mary. Mr. George, thank you for coming. The voice behind me made me turn around. It was the curator. Today, she wasn't wearing her uniform, but a simple white dress, completely different from Mary's style when she was alive. Did you send the email? I asked directly. She nodded. There are some things I want to tell you, but not here. Will you come with me? We walked through the small park beside the art museum and arrived at a secluded cafe. The whole time, I kept observing her. Her mannerisms, the way she walked, none of it resembled Mary. Yet her sensitivity to detail and her focused attention gave me a strange sense of familiarity. Who are you, really? The moment we sat down, I couldn't wait to ask. My name is Nicole. She looked me straight in the eye. I'm Mary's student. This answer caught me off guard. Mary had indeed taught jewelry design part-time at the Design Academy before she passed away, but she had never mentioned having any particularly close students. I took her advanced design class the year before she passed, Nicole explained. Her guidance benefited me for a lifetime. That still doesn't explain why your designs resemble her style so much, I said, half convinced. Nicole took a folder out of her bag. These are all notes from Ms. Nicole's class and her feedback on my work. You can look at the handwriting and confirm that it's really hers. I carefully examined the materials. It was indeed Mary's handwriting. There were even traces of the pale purple ink she habitually used. Before Ms. Nicole passed away, she was guiding me on my graduation project, Nicole continued. The theme was interwoven light and shadow, blending Eastern and Western aesthetic elements. She gave me a lot of valuable advice, and even showed me a sketch from a private project she was working on at the time. George's special birthday project? I blurted out. Nicole's eyes widened in surprise. You know about it? I only found out recently. I briefly explained the origin of the blood amber. I knew that blood amber would eventually find its way back to you, Nicole said with a smile. Nicole always said it was a destined gift. Is that why you contacted me? Because you saw the blood amber? Nicole was silent for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. Not entirely. After Nicole passed away, I've been trying to carry on the design philosophy she taught me. Some time ago, I happened to see the news about your eternity being stolen, and then I saw someone impersonating Nicole. I thought I should tell you a few things. She took a letter out of her bag. This is the last letter Nicole gave me after class before she passed away. She said if her surprise plan went smoothly, I should show you this letter. If anything went wrong and she was gone, I should still make sure you see it. I took the envelope. It was indeed Mary's handwriting, and it read, "To my dearest husband." The envelope had already been opened. I didn't know what was in the letter at the time. I just kept it as Nicole instructed, Nicole explained. It wasn't until I saw the news that I opened it. I hope you won't blame me. I carefully took out the letter paper and unfolded it to read. Dear George, if you are reading this letter, perhaps my surprise plan has gone awry. Don't worry, it's just that the plan has changed, and the form of the gift may be different now. The blood amber I picked for you is said to be known as the Eye of Rebirth. Legend has it that looking at the world through it reveals truths that are often overlooked. I hope it can become a turning point in your artistic career, leading you to see new possibilities. All these years, your paintings have always depicted backs, as if you're afraid to face something head-on. I hope this gemstone will give you the courage to paint the front, to capture true emotions. No matter what happens, please remember, love does not disappear, it merely changes form, like this blood amber, which, after millions of years, transforms from resin into a gem, yet still shines. Forever loving you, Mary. The handwriting became a bit messy at the end, as if written in a hurry. I stroked the paper, as if I could feel Mary's emotions at that moment. Thank you, I said, my voice choked with emotion. This means a lot to me. You're welcome. I'm just fulfilling Ms. Nicole's request, Nicole said with a smile. Actually, there's one more thing I'd like to ask your help with. What is it? I'd like to apply for the Mary Scholarship you established, she said, taking a design portfolio out of her bag. This is my graduation project, combining Ms. Nicole's ideas with my own innovations. As I flipped through the portfolio, I was surprised to find that while these designs bore traces of Mary's influence, they also possessed a unique style and innovative touches. In particular, a series called Metamorphosis cleverly combined jewelry with transformable elements, allowing the pieces to change form according to the wearer's mood and occasion. This is outstanding, I praised sincerely. Mary would be proud of you. A hint of joy flashed in Nicole's eyes. Really? I've always worried I couldn't live up to her expectations. You've already moved beyond the learning stage and developed your own style. That's exactly what she hoped to see. As we talked, sunlight streamed through the window and fell on Nicole. In that moment, I seemed to understand something. When Mary spoke of love changing its form, perhaps she wasn't just referring to the blood amber, but also to her passion for art and its legacy. Luna tried to impersonate Mary by mimicking her appearance, but she could never truly replicate who she was. Nicole, on the other hand, looked nothing like Mary, yet she inherited a part of her artistic vision and spirit. Perhaps this is the true gift Mary left me, not the blood amber, but a new possibility, a path out of the past. Nicole's graduation exhibition was held in a small gallery. Though the space was modest, it was exquisitely arranged. Her works were divided into 3 series, representing the past, the present, and the future, forming a complete narrative. This is a brilliant idea, I sincerely praised. From tradition to contemporary and then to the future, it showcases the evolution and possibilities of jewelry design. Nicole smiled and nodded. This was inspired by teacher Nicole. She always says that good design should look back at history, be grounded in the present, and look forward to the future. As I walked through the exhibition hall, I noticed a special display case in the corner, containing only one piece, a seemingly simple ring with a small red gemstone set in the center. This is. I leaned in to read the label, which said, in memory, dedicated to teacher Mary. Yes, I made it from a small piece of blood amber I bought with my own savings, Nicole explained. It can't compare to the quality of yours, but it's also from Myanmar. I examined the design of the ring closely. Clean, powerful lines, with fine silver threads encircling the blood amber, as if protecting the central gem, yet also seeming to radiate light outward. This is very similar to Mary's final design style, I said softly, but it also has your own unique touch. I wanted to create a piece that could both commemorate teacher Nicole and showcase my own style, Nicole explained. The blood amber represents her influence, while the outer design is the direction of my own development. The exhibition attracted quite a few industry insiders, including some well-known figures from the jewelry design world. After viewing the exhibition, an older female designer approached Nicole and offered her an internship opportunity. I stood by, genuinely happy for Nicole. In the evening, as the exhibition was drawing to a close, Frank arrived as well. Seeing me with Nicole, he gave me a knowing smile. "New friend?" he asked me quietly. "Mary's student," I explained simply. "Very talented." Frank nodded without asking further questions. After touring the exhibition, he gave high praise to Nicole's work. It blends traditional and modern elements, demonstrating both technical skill and artistic expression, quite rare. Nicole thanked him politely. This wouldn't have been possible without the guidance of teacher Nicole and teacher George. After the exhibition, the three of us went to a nearby restaurant for dinner. During the meal, Frank talked about recent trends in the art market, while Nicole shared her insights on contemporary jewelry design. The conversation was light and pleasant, and I realized it had been a long time since I had relaxed and chatted with others like this. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank received an urgent call and left early. Only Nicole and I remained in the restaurant, and the atmosphere suddenly became a bit quiet. "Mr. George," Nicole hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I've always had a question I wanted to ask you." "What is it?" "After you finished The Pursuit, what are you planning to create next?" The question caught me off guard. To be honest, ever since The Pursuit, I haven't had any new inspiration. That painting seemed to have drained all my emotions and creativity. "I haven't decided yet," I answered honestly. "It might take some time to find a new direction." Nicole nodded thoughtfully. Nicole once said that the hardest thing for an artist isn't creating a stunning masterpiece, but finding a way forward after reaching the peak. She really did say that, I recalled with a smile. Mary always saw further than I did. "Maybe," Nicole said softly, "you could try a new direction that combines your work with jewelry design, like in The Pursuit, but taking it even further." I recalled what Mary mentioned in her letter about seeing new possibilities, and suddenly I was inspired. "You mean creating a series of works that combine painting and jewelry?" "Exactly," Nicole said excitedly. "Your paintings create emotion in two-dimensional space, while jewelry gives it tangible form in the three-dimensional world. The combination of the two would have an astonishing effect." The more we talked, the more engaged we became, even sketching a few concept designs on the restaurant's napkins. Nicole's ideas were fresh and bold, perfectly aligning with my artistic vision, yet bringing a new perspective. As we left the restaurant, Nicole suddenly said, "I have to confess something." I looked at her in confusion. "I reached out to you not only to deliver Nicole's letter, but also for a personal reason. I hope to learn from you," she said candidly. "I want to become a designer like Nicole, someone who not only creates beautiful works but also perfectly blends art with emotion." Her sincerity moved me. "You're already on that path, and you're doing very well." "Then, may I consult you often?" she asked a little nervously. Of course, I'd be delighted. On the way home, a series of new works already began to take shape in my mind. A cross-disciplinary art that fuses painting and jewelry, both as a tribute to Mary and as a new starting point in my artistic career. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, Mary stood in a halo of blood-red light, smiling at me and saying, "See, I knew you would find a new direction." When I woke up, I got out of bed immediately and began sketching for the new series. I decided to name it Rebirth. Not only representing the ancient life forever preserved in blood amber, but also symbolizing the rebirth of my artistic career, as well as the inheritance and development of Mary's artistic vision. A week later, I submitted a new series proposal to the gallery and received an enthusiastic response. The curator even suggested holding a special exhibition themed Between Dimensions, a dialogue between painting and jewelry. For this project, I invited Nicole to join the team as a jewelry design consultant. She had just graduated from design school and was both excited and nervous about the opportunity. "Am I really up to the task?" she asked me in the studio. "You understand Mary's design philosophy better than anyone," I assured her. "That's exactly what I need." In the days that followed, we worked at a feverish pace. We created during the day and discussed at night, sometimes even working through until dawn. Nicole's ideas flowed endlessly, and I transformed those thoughts into concrete artistic expressions. In the process, I rediscovered the pure joy of creation that I hadn't felt in a long time. One late night, when we finally finished the design for our first piece, Nicole clapped her hands excitedly. "This is amazing. Teacher Nicole will definitely love it." At the mention of Mary, she suddenly realized her slip and looked at me nervously. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's all right," I said with a smile. "I think Mary really would like it. She always hoped I could step out of my comfort zone and try new ways of expressing myself." Nicole let out a sigh of relief, then hesitantly asked, "Professor George, may I ask you a personal question?" "What is it?" "When you faced the woman impersonating Professor Nicole, how did you see through her? I mean, from the news reports, she seemed like an exact copy of Professor Nicole." I pondered for a moment. Superficial resemblance is easy to achieve, but a true personality cannot be duplicated. Mary's perception of art, her attitude toward life, the way she handled details, these were all unique. Just like a work of art, Nicole mused, no matter how perfect a replica is, it can never capture the soul of the original. Exactly. We worked through the night again, and finally established the overall framework for the Rebirth series. 7 pieces, each blending elements of painting and jewelry, together telling a story of loss and recovery, death and rebirth. As our collaboration deepened, my relationship with Nicole gradually shifted from teacher and student to partners, both mentor and friend. Sometimes, when the light traced the gentle contours of her focused profile, I would unconsciously think of Mary. But soon, I realized that this association wasn't due to any physical resemblance, but rather that same dedication and passion for art. "George, you look much more spirited lately," Frank remarked at a gathering. "It's been a while since I've seen you so full of life." "Yeah, the new project has helped me rediscover the joy of creating." "Nicole's a good girl," Frank said meaningfully. "Talented, and she really understands you." I understood his implication, but just smiled without responding. There was indeed a special understanding between Nicole and me, but it was more rooted in our shared passion for art than anything else. At least for now. The creation of the Rebirth series took 3 months, longer than expected, but the results were stunning. Each piece was a perfect fusion of painting and jewelry art, offering both the pleasure of viewing as a flat image and the discovery of 3-dimensional effects brought by the jewelry elements from different angles. A week before the exhibition opened, I received an unexpected visitor, Luna. She had served her sentence and was released early. She looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but her eyes were clearer. "I came to apologize to you in person." She stood at the studio door, her voice low, "for everything I have done." I didn't respond immediately, but simply invited her in to sit down. "I know that an apology can't make up for the loss," she continued, "but I want you to know that I truly regret it." "How is your sister's illness?" I asked. She looked up in surprise. You know. I guessed. "You said you needed money for a reason, and I think that must have been true." "Yes," she nodded. "My sister's surgery was a success, and now she's fully recovered. For the past 3 years, I've been thinking about how to make up for my mistakes, even though I may never be able to." I was silent for a moment, then said, "You know, in a way, your appearance actually helped me." "What do you mean?" "It forced me to confront the past, to re-examine my memories with Mary, and ultimately to find a way forward." I pointed to the sketches of the Rebirth series on the wall and briefly explained this new project. Luna listened quietly, a look of genuine respect in her eyes. "I'm glad you were able to find a new beginning from that nightmare," she said at last. "I hope I can find my own path to rebirth as well." As she left, she handed me a small package. "These are some simple pieces of jewelry I made in prison. The craftsmanship is rough, but each one represents my remorse and blessings. I hope you can accept them." Opening the package, I found several small trinkets handmade from fine wire and colorful glass beads. Though simple, it was clear the creator had poured their heart into them. Nicole happened to come into the studio at that moment. Seeing the trinkets, she asked curiously, "What are these?" I told her about Luna's visit. "You forgave her?" Nicole was a bit surprised. "Not exactly forgiveness," I said thoughtfully. "It's more like understanding. Everyone has their own hardships and choices. What's important is how we learn and grow from our mistakes." Nicole nodded pensively, picking up a piece of jewelry to examine it closely. "The craftsmanship is rough, but the concept is ingenious. This person seems to have a talent for design." Perhaps, I said. Everyone has the possibility of being reborn. On the day of the exhibition opening, numerous figures from the art and jewelry worlds gathered together. The Rebirth series received unprecedented acclaim. Critics called it a model of cross-disciplinary art, and the gallery owner was overjoyed, announcing plans for a nationwide tour. In the crowd, I saw Luna. She was dressed simply, standing quietly in a corner, admiring the exhibits. Our eyes met in the air. She nodded slightly, then walked away. "Who was that?" Nicole asked, standing beside me. "Someone searching for rebirth," I replied. Nicole seemed to understand and asked no more. We stood side by side before the pursuit, watching the blood amber refract a strange light under the lamps, like the silent burning of life's flame. "Thank you," I whispered to Nicole. "Without you, this series might never have come into being." "It was your philosophy that guided us, teacher Nicole," she replied modestly. "I was just fortunate enough to be the messenger." In that moment, I suddenly understood the true meaning of what Mary had written in her letter. Love has changed its form. Love exists not only in memory and longing, but also in inheritance and innovation, shining brightly in every spark of artistic creation. And I, at last, had learned how to begin anew after loss, to embrace rebirth while still searching. The success of the exhibition exceeded everyone's expectations. In just 1 month, the Rebirth series was reported on by major media outlets and even attracted the attention of the international art world. A renowned auction house extended an olive branch to me, hoping to include several pieces in their annual highlight auction. "This is an unprecedented opportunity," Frank said excitedly. "If the deal goes through, you'll become a top player in the contemporary art market." I wasn't particularly concerned with commercial success, but I did feel the joy of having my work widely recognized. More importantly, this series opened up a new artistic path for me, freeing me from the creative shackles of the past 3 years. Nicole benefited as well. As the project's jewelry design consultant, she received high praise from the industry. Several well-known jewelry brands reached out to her, hoping she would join their design teams. "Which offer are you planning to accept?" One night, as we were tidying up the studio together, I asked her. "To be honest, I'm still hesitating." Nicole paused her work. "These are all great opportunities, but..." "But what?" "But I want to keep working with you." She looked straight into my eyes. "Rebirth is just the beginning, isn't it?" Her candor surprised me a little. Indeed, the success of this series had opened up many new creative possibilities for us, but I wasn't sure if I should continue such a close working relationship. "You should consider your own career development," I said tactfully. "These opportunities are very rare for young designers." Nicole seemed to sense my hesitation and nodded gently. "I understand." In the days that followed, we were both busy and rarely had the chance to talk alone. A week later, Nicole told me she had decided to accept an invitation from a French jewelry brand and would be going to Paris to work for 2 years. "Congratulations," I said sincerely. "It's a very good choice." "Thank you," she replied with a smile, though a fleeting, elusive emotion flashed in her eyes. "I think this is the best arrangement for both of us." Before Nicole left, we held a small farewell party. Frank, the curator, and a few mutual friends came. The atmosphere was warm, tinged with a hint of sadness. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank found an opportunity to pull me aside. "Are you really going to just let her go like this?" "What do you mean?" I pretended not to understand. "Don't play dumb, man," Frank said bluntly. "You have feelings for her. That's obvious." "That's just professional rapport," I argued. "Is that so?" Frank looked at me meaningfully. "Then why have you been so distracted ever since she decided to go to France?" I was at a loss for words. In fact, these past few days I had indeed felt an inexplicable sense of loss, but I kept telling myself it was only because I had lost an excellent partner. "I know what you're worried about." Frank lowered his voice. "You feel like you're letting Mary down, don't you?" I remained silent. He had touched upon the deepest concern in my heart. "Mary has been gone for 3 years now." Frank gently patted my shoulder. "She would want you to be happy." After the party ended, I walked Nicole home. The night was tranquil as water, and the city lights flowed around us. "Thank you for your help and guidance these past few months." Nicole stopped at the entrance of her apartment building. "This experience has meant so much to me." "I should be thanking you," I said sincerely. "Without you, the Rebirth series would never have been completed." We fell into silence, as if both searching for the right words to say goodbye. My flight is the morning after tomorrow, Nicole finally said. I still have some things to take care of tomorrow. So, this is probably the last time we'll see each other. 2 years will pass quickly. I tried to make my voice sound light. Paris is a beautiful city. You'll like it there. She nodded, a complex emotion flickering in her eyes. Professor George, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, but never found the right opportunity. What is it? I chose to study jewelry design because I saw Nicole's works. She took a deep breath, or more precisely, because I saw the pieces Nicole designed for you. The way she perfectly fused love and art moved me deeply. I didn't know that, I said in surprise. I've always hoped that one day I could be like Nicole, creating art filled with emotion. Nicole continued, her words coming faster, as if afraid she might lose her courage. But now I realize that what I want even more is to create for a specific person, just like Nicole created for you. I understood her implication, and my heart suddenly began to race. Nicole, please don't respond, she gently interrupted me. I just wanted you to know before I leave. No matter how you feel right now, remember that starting over is not a betrayal of the past, but a way of cherishing life. With that, she rose up on her tiptoes and softly kissed my cheek, then quickly turned and walked into the apartment building, leaving me standing alone in the night, my mind in turmoil. After returning home, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, replaying Nicole's words and that gentle kiss over and over in my mind. Suddenly, I remembered a small box in the study, where Mary's last complete letter was kept, a letter I had found while sorting through her belongings. But at the time, overwhelmed by grief, I never had the courage to open. Now, I finally mustered the courage to walk into the study and retrieve that delicate little box from the depths of the drawer. Inside lay a pale pink letter, bearing Mary's familiar handwriting. Dearest George, by the time you read this letter, you may find yourself at a crossroads in life, hesitating between moving forward or staying where you are. My greatest wish is that you can move bravely through life, as freely as your brush glides across the canvas. Love is not a shackle, but a liberation. Memory is not a burden, but a source of strength. If one day you meet someone who can rekindle the light in your eyes, please don't hesitate because of your longing for me. True love is wishing happiness for the other, even if there is no longer a place for oneself in that happiness. Remember, the days we loved each other were complete, with no need for regrets. And now, it's time to paint a new picture, my beloved. Forever loving you. Mary tears blurred my vision. It was as if Mary had foreseen my current situation and had already given me her blessing. She was always like this, always able to see further and more clearly than I could. At that moment, I made up my mind. Early the next morning, I drove straight to Nicole's apartment. Professor George? Nicole opened the door in surprise, clearly not expecting me. I have something to say to you. I looked her straight in the eyes, not as your teacher, but as George. I handed her Mary's letter. Nicole read it carefully, her expression shifting from surprise to being moved, and finally, her eyes grew moist. She truly was an extraordinary woman, Nicole said softly, handing the letter back to me. Yes, she was, I nodded. That's exactly why I believe her words. Nicole, cancel your plans for Paris. Stay and continue our collaboration, will you? Nicole looked at me in shock. Are you serious? I've never been more serious, I said quietly. Rebirth is not just the name of an artwork, it's a possibility in life. Are you willing to explore that possibility with me? Her answer was a firm embrace, warm and real, like the first ray of sunlight after a long winter. In that moment, I felt as if Mary was somewhere, smiling down on us, blessing this new beginning. Life is like that blood amber, enduring countless ages of change and sedimentation, ultimately transforming into an eternal radiance. And I, at last, understood what true pursuit is, what true rebirth means. A year later, Nicole and I unveiled our second joint project, Interwoven, at the National Art Museum. This series was even bolder and more innovative than Rebirth, blending Eastern and Western aesthetics with various art forms. Critics hailed it as a significant breakthrough in contemporary art. At the opening ceremony, Nicole held my arm as we faced the media interviews and congratulations from the audience together. She wore a simple white dress, and around her neck was the Eye of Rebirth necklace we designed together. She completed the jewelry part based on my painting. Your collaboration seems even more in sync than your last project, a reporter asked with a suggestive smile. Nicole glanced at me, and we exchanged a smile. Yes, both in art and in life, We found the perfect balance. This indirect answer drew a round of good-natured laughter from the reporters present. My relationship with Nicole was no longer a secret, but we always kept a low profile, letting the public's attention remain focused on our artistic creations. After the exhibition, we drove out to a small hill in the countryside. There stood an ancient oak tree, beneath which Mary's ashes were laid to rest. This was the place we chose, rather than a traditional cemetery, natural, peaceful, just like Mary herself. "Mary, the exhibition was a great success today," I said softly to the stone beneath the tree. "Nicole's designs were admired by everyone, just as you once predicted." Nicole crouched down and placed a bouquet of white daisies in front of the stone. "Teacher Nicole, I've been working hard to become the kind of designer you hoped I would be. I hope you can be proud of me." A gentle breeze stirred, and the oak's leaves rustled softly, as if it were Mary's reply. On the way back, Nicole suddenly said, "I've been thinking about something." "What is it?" "If that woman who pretended to be Ms. Nicole hadn't appeared, you might never have found the blood amber, never created the pursuit, and we might never have met." Her words made me fall into deep thought. Indeed, it was the series of events triggered by that deception that ultimately led to everything now. It feels as if, in the unseen, some force has been orchestrating it all. "Perhaps that's the irony of fate," I said softly. "Sometimes, the worst beginnings can lead us to the best endings." When I returned home, I received an unexpected package. Upon opening it, I found a delicate little box containing a handmade ring. Though simple, the craftsmanship had improved greatly compared to the pieces I had seen before. There was a note attached. "Mr. George, thank you for your kindness and understanding a year ago, which gave me the courage to start over. Now I have found a job at a small jewelry shop, and my life is gradually getting back on track. This ring represents my gratitude, and I wish you happiness and well-being on your new path." "Luna," I handed the ring to Nicole. After examining it carefully, she remarked, "Her skills have improved a lot. She truly is talent." "Some mistakes in life shouldn't become permanent scars," I sighed. "Everyone deserves a second chance." That night, we sat in the studio, discussing ideas for the next series. Nicole suddenly proposed a bold idea. I was thinking, maybe we could try connecting the different stages of our work to create a complete narrative. From eternity to quest, then to rebirth, and intertwined, they're actually different phases in a person's life journey. "You mean?" "A complete story about loss, searching, rebirth, and integration," she explained excitedly, ultimately asking what is the most precious treasure in life. "Love." I finished her sentence. "No matter what form it takes." Nicole nodded, her eyes sparkling with creative fire. "We could call it the forms of love, an unprecedented artistic exploration." "Sounds like a long-term, ambitious project." "We have time," she smiled, holding my hand. "We have so much time." In that moment, I felt a powerful surge of creative inspiration, just like when I first began my artistic career years ago, filled with passion and possibility. But this time, I was not facing the blank canvas alone. 2 years later, the Forms of Love series was exhibited simultaneously in the world's 5 greatest art museums, causing an unprecedented sensation. Critics called it a milestone in contemporary art history, blending painting, sculpture, jewelry design, and other art forms to create an entirely new artistic language. The final piece of the exhibition was titled Eternal Ring, a massive circular canvas depicting every form of love in life, familial, platonic, romantic, and the love for art itself. The edge of the canvas was inlaid with gemstones of various sizes, and under certain lighting, these gems would cast light onto specific parts of the canvas, revealing another hidden layer of patterns. The centerpiece of this work is a massive blood amber. Through intricate optical design, the light it projects perfectly outlines 2 embracing figures. One is Mary, the other is Nicole, symbolizing the intersection of past and present, the fusion of memory and rebirth. On the closing day of the exhibition, in front of the Eternal Ring, I knelt on one knee and proposed to Nicole. The ring was crafted from the very blood amber Mary had once prepared for me, designed by my own hand and fashioned by the finest jeweler. "This ring carries the memories of the past and the hopes for the future," I whispered softly. "Nicole, will you be the eternal ring in my life?" Her tears sparkled under the spotlight. "I will." Amidst the cheers, I remembered what Mary once said: "Love does not disappear, it merely changes its form." Yes, love does not disappear. It exists in memories, in art, in every rebirth and new beginning. It traverses time and crosses space, like that blood amber which, after millions of years, still shines, forever retaining the original warmth and brilliance of life. This is the answer I have been searching for all along. Between loss and gain, between seeking and rebirth, love remains constant, only appearing in different forms along the journey of life. And all we need to do is bravely accept this gift, no matter how it comes to us. On the day of the wedding, the sky was a clear, washed blue. Beneath the ancient oak tree that had watched over Mary, we exchanged our vows. A gentle breeze stirred, making the leaves whisper as if blessings were drifting in from another world. "No matter when or where," Nicole said softly, "we'll always remember that it was she who brought us together." "Yes," I squeezed her hand, "and we will always cherish this gift." In the brilliant sunlight, the blood amber ring gleamed, radiant as life itself, enduring the passage of time, yet still shining bright.